Beneath the relentless sun of the Giza Plateau, the air hangs still over stone that has stood longer than memory. Tourists move like dots against the horizon, unaware that deep within the Great Pyramid, something long hidden may have stirred. For years, this monument has been studied, measured, and mapped, yet it continues to guard secrets older than history itself. Now, a new investigation using cutting-edge scanning technology has revealed traces of sealed corridors and concealed chambers buried within the pyramid's core, spaces untouched for more than 4,000 years. What these voids contain remains unknown. The data suggests precision, geometry, and intentional design far beyond what was expected from the structure we thought we understood. Archaeologists working on the project describe the results as unlike anything previously recorded in Egyptian archaeology. The chambers appear to align with known passages, but extend deeper and further, hinting at a hidden order beneath the familiar layout. This discovery does not simply add another puzzle to the Great Pyramid. It challenges its entire narrative. Was it only a tomb, or part of something far greater, built for a purpose long forgotten? Inside these ancient stones, the silence is complete. Yet the data whispers of movement, of intention, of human hands shaping space in ways we still cannot explain. After millennia of speculation, it seems the Great Pyramid has begun to speak again, and what it has to say may rewrite everything we thought we knew about Egypt's past. For centuries, the Great Pyramid has stood as a monument to human ambition, precision, and mystery. But if the new findings deep within its structure are confirmed, then the story of how and why it was built may need to be rewritten. At stake is not just another chapter of Egyptian history, but the foundation of how we understand civilization itself. Archaeologists have always viewed the pyramids as tombs, extraordinary feats of engineering meant to honor pharaohs and guide their souls to eternity. Yet, the emerging evidence hints at something far more complex, perhaps even purposeful on a level that blurs the line between religion, science, and technology. The discovery of sealed corridors and perfectly symmetrical voids suggests design, not accident. If these spaces were indeed planned, then the Great Pyramid might not be a simple monument to the dead, but a functional part of a larger system. One that combined geometry, acoustics, and energy in ways we are only beginning to explore. Such a revelation could shift our view of ancient Egypt from a culture defined by ritual and superstition to one that mastered forms of knowledge long thought beyond its reach. Could this be illumination, the moment we uncover evidence of a forgotten science? Or could it be illusion, a misread of data, an echo mistaken for intent? The question reaches far beyond Egypt's borders. Around the world, ancient sites once dismissed as symbolic or ceremonial could be reconsidered as pieces of a vast technological puzzle. Patterns of alignment, the flow of water, the resonance of stone, all could take on new meaning. But every possibility carries danger. If the findings prove wrong, if the supposed chambers are nothing more than geological anomalies or errors in scanning, it would not only discredit the researchers, but also damage the credibility of archaeological science itself. The field depends on evidence, not belief. And yet, belief has always been part of what draws us to the past. The desire to find connection, purpose, and intelligence where time has erased the proof. That tension between data and desire now sits at the heart of this debate. Each new scan, each image, could confirm or collapse decades of study. One path leads to revelation, the other to ridicule. If this 4,000-year-old mystery has truly been unlocked, it could redefine humanity's first great leap into architecture, mathematics, and metaphysics. But if it is not, the cost is more than just academic. It is the loss of trust between science and wonder. In the end, the Great Pyramid stands silent, unchanged by our arguments. Whether it holds answers or only questions, it continues to draw us toward that delicate boundary between what is known and what was never meant to be understood. It began not with excavation, but with light and data. In 2025, a multinational research team from Italy, Japan, and Egypt initiated one of the most advanced imaging surveys ever conducted on the Great Pyramid of Giza. Using a combination of ground-penetrating radar, synthetic aperture radar, and artificial intelligence reconstruction, they aimed to map the interior of the structure in unprecedented detail. For the first time in history, scientists were not looking at the pyramid from the outside in, but from the inside out. Each pulse of energy sent through the limestone returned fragments of information, faint echoes from the heart of the monument itself. At first, the scans appeared ordinary. Variations in density, scattered voids, small irregularities, familiar signs from decades of study. But as algorithms refined the data, the image began to shift. Shapes formed where none should be. Lines appeared where the rock was thought to be solid. The AI model reconstructed what seemed to be organized geometry hidden deep within the stone. Parallel walls, angular voids, and a pattern that followed the layout of the king's chamber but extended far below it. The data pointed to corridors sealed off from known passageways, their alignment precise to the millimeter. The researchers repeated the scans, adjusting frequencies and angles to confirm what they saw. Each time, the same pattern emerged. The radar showed not random gaps, but ordered architecture. Smooth plains where there should have been rough bedrock, and boundaries too uniform to belong to nature. It was as if the pyramid concealed a second blueprint beneath its familiar design. Some readings indicated vertical shafts branching downward, their paths measured and straight, ending in dense zones that absorbed the signal entirely. These areas, unreachable by modern tools, became the focus of the investigation. When the data was rendered into three-dimensional form, a network of corridors appeared, geometrically perfect, aligned with celestial markers just like the structure above. The precision astonished even the most cautious members of the team. Inside one of the deeper anomalies, sensors registered faint variations consistent with voids connected by thin passages. They were not large enough for human movement, yet their arrangement suggested deliberate planning, possibly for airflow, acoustics, or symbolic design. No physical excavation has yet confirmed these results, but the radar reflections leave little doubt. Something lies beneath the king's chamber that modern science has never touched. The implications reach beyond architecture. The symmetry of the readings mirrors the pyramid's external proportions, suggesting that its design might extend inward in layers of mathematical harmony. If intentional, it reflects an understanding of structural resonance far ahead of its time. The team's official report described it with measured restraint, anomalies of artificial geometry. But privately, several members admitted that the findings challenge everything they thought they knew about ancient engineering. Not one shovel of sand was moved, yet the earth itself answered. From beneath 4,000 years of silence, the pyramid revealed faint traces of a hidden world, patterns too precise to dismiss, too deep to explain. Whether they mark forgotten chambers, symbolic architecture, or something beyond comprehension, the discovery stands as a reminder. The Great Pyramid still keeps its own counsel, and it may not have revealed its final secret yet. As the data from the pyramid's interior continued to take shape, an unexpected pattern began to emerge. The scans revealed not only isolated voids or linear passages, but a complete system of design buried within the greater structure itself. Beneath the known architecture of the Great Pyramid, a second geometry appeared, symmetrical, deliberate, and hauntingly precise. It was as if another monument existed below the one visible to the eye, echoing its angles and proportions in silence. Engineers and data analysts examined the results frame by frame. The dimensions of several detected spaces corresponded almost exactly with known measurements of the king's chamber and the grand gallery above. The ratio of width to height, the slope of certain corridors, Even the spacing between structural nodes all mirrored the external blueprint of the pyramid. Random geology does not replicate geometry with such accuracy. The deeper the team looked, the more it seemed that the pyramid contained a reflection of itself, an architectural shadow hidden within stone. This symmetrical correspondence led researchers to consider the possibility of layered design, a structure intentionally built in harmony with its own foundations. In ancient Egyptian thought, symmetry was not decoration but a form of order, a manifestation of cosmic balance known as mayat. The principle governed everything from art to astronomy, and here it seemed to shape the very heart of the pyramid. If these underground forms were deliberate, they may represent an unseen counterpart to the world above, a symbolic descent mirroring the pharaoh's ascent to the heavens. Mathematicians brought in to analyze the radar maps noted consistent ratios repeating through the data. One in particular stood out, the 11.7 proportion, a ratio present in the known chambers of the pyramid and reflected again in the hidden layers below. Such precision suggested intent, not coincidence. Even more curious was the alignment of these patterns with magnetic north, a phenomenon the ancient builders could not have achieved without a profound understanding of orientation and celestial movement. The pyramid, it seemed, was not merely a tomb, but an instrument of geometry and time. When rendered in three-dimensional models, the internal lattice appeared almost alive. The radar reflections pulsed as if responding to frequency changes, the structure seeming to breathe in waves of light and density. Each shift in scanning depth revealed new harmonics, voids within voids, intersections that formed repeating fractals of architectural logic. The deeper they looked, the more the pyramid seemed alive, responding, echoing. Some scholars have proposed that the mirrored architecture may have served ritual or acoustic purposes, amplifying sound or vibration in ceremonies long forgotten. Others suggest it was symbolic, a reflection of the Egyptian dualism between life and death, earth and sky. Whatever its purpose, the mathematical beauty of the design remains undeniable. The Great Pyramid was built to endure eternity, yet within it may lie a second monument, one not carved by hand, but by the architects of balance and proportion themselves. Hidden beneath layers of limestone and time, this mirror world still waits, silent but ordered, its geometry whispering across millennia. Deep beneath the layered geometry of the Great Pyramid, the radar scans revealed something even more mysterious than hidden chambers or symmetrical voids. Running through the lower sections of the structure, faint linear patterns began to appear. Long, narrow formations that connected the underground anomalies like veins. At first, these lines were dismissed as fissures in the bedrock, the natural scars of time and erosion. But the more scientists refined their models, the clearer they became. These were not random fractures. They formed a network, curved in places, measured in others, converging with almost biological precision. What they were seeing, the team realized, looked remarkably like a system designed to channel water. The data showed these pathways linking the major underground features, the large chambers, the vertical shafts, and the spiral formations that descended toward the pyramid's unseen depths. When the density readings were adjusted, the patterns became undeniable. The channels were smooth, consistent in width, and appeared to slope gradually downward, suggesting intentional direction of flow. In other words, this was not nature's doing. Someone, thousands of years ago, had carved and engineered a circulation system beneath the monument. Whether for function or faith, it had once carried something that moved like life itself. In Egypt, water was never merely a physical element. It was the first substance of creation, the primordial ocean, known as Nun, from which the world was said to have risen. The Nile was its living expression, the artery that connected the gods, the kings, and the land itself. To control water was to command balance, fertility, and even immortality. The discovery of what appeared to be a hydraulic network beneath the Great Pyramid therefore carried immense symbolic weight. If these channels were part of the original design, they might not have served only an engineering purpose. They could have represented a sacred journey, the passage between life and death, between body and spirit. Hydrologists assisting with the project noted that the channel's gradient and intersections resembled ancient irrigation systems known from other early dynastic sites. Yet, the positioning here, beneath a monumental structure of stone, was far more complex. Some pathways appeared to converge near the base of what radar analysts believed to be a massive cube-shaped chamber, while others extended outward toward the plateau. One line, in particular, seemed to point directly toward the ancient course of the Nile. The implications were extraordinary. Could the pyramid have once been physically connected to the river itself? If so, the purpose might have gone beyond transport or construction. Some researchers suggest that flowing water could have generated a form of natural resonance within the structure, a steady vibration amplified by the pyramid's geometry. The concept may sound modern, yet ancient Egyptians understood sound and rhythm as divine forces. Temples were often designed to echo chants and hymns, and certain chambers within the Great Pyramid already display unusual acoustic properties. The idea that water moving through these hidden channels might have produced sound, a low, continuous hum, fits within both scientific possibility and symbolic meaning. It would mean that the pyramid was not a silent monument, but a living instrument, one that once sang to the pulse of water beneath it. The team examining the scans proposed a working theory. The pyramid, they argued, may have functioned as a hydraulic temple hybrid, a structure that used controlled water flow to regulate temperature, enhance acoustics, or even simulate the cycle of creation and rebirth described in Egyptian cosmology. The great stone chambers above could have served as resonant amplifiers, while the underground passages mirrored the mythic rivers of the underworld. In the Book of the Dead, the soul of the departed pharaoh must cross the subterranean waters of the Duat to reach the stars. Perhaps these physical channels symbolize that very journey, the passage of spirit through darkness, guided by the eternal flow beneath. Still, others offer a more practical reading. Some engineers believe that water played a role in the original construction of the pyramid, easing the transport of limestone blocks, or stabilizing the ground during building. The presence of water channels could therefore mark remnants of an ancient hydraulic mechanism, but even this utilitarian theory holds wonder. To have engineered such a system at this scale would mean the builders possessed technical knowledge unmatched until modern times. Regardless of interpretation, the evidence continues to grow. Mineral traces detected in core samples from the surrounding plateau suggest that water once flowed beneath the surface in significant quantity. Geological surveys have also confirmed that the region's water table was much higher during Egypt's Old Kingdom period. If these factors are linked, it could mean that the pyramid was constructed in deliberate harmony with the environment, an architecture that literally breathed with the earth. As data analysis continues, the idea of water as both symbol and substance gains strength. In nearly every ancient Egyptian text, water is depicted as the boundary between worlds, the force that separates the living from the divine. The radar images now suggest that this belief may have been etched directly into the stone. Each channel beneath the pyramid could represent a path between dimensions, a physical embodiment of myth. The ancients believed water carried memory. Maybe it still whispers through the stone. If the Great Pyramid was designed to resonate with that memory, to echo the eternal rhythm of creation and decay, then it stands not only as a tomb or a monument, but as an instrument of time itself. Beneath its silent geometry, the water veins of Giza may still trace the heartbeat of a civilization that refused to let its knowledge die. And though the river has long retreated, and the sands have sealed its passage, the pyramid remains, a monument to flow and stillness, to sound and silence, to the endless conversation between earth and eternity. Among the labyrinth of chambers, shafts, and hidden voids beneath the Great Pyramid, one theory refuses to fade. It belongs not to modern science, but to the echo of ancient legend, a legend that speaks of a vault buried deep below the sands, sealed since the dawn of time. Some researchers have begun to wonder, could the anomalies revealed by radar and imaging technology correspond to the long-rumored Hall of Records, an archive said to contain the forgotten history of a world that came before Egypt itself? The idea traces back to ancient and modern sources alike. In the 20th century, American mystic Edgar Cayce claimed that beneath the Giza plateau lay a library of stone and crystal tablets, preserving the wisdom of a civilization destroyed by flood. The civilization the Greeks would later call Atlantis. According to his readings, the Hall of Records would one day be discovered when humanity is ready to remember. For decades, this claim existed on the margins of archaeology, dismissed as myth, yet never entirely erased. What makes the current findings so compelling is their location. The radar-mapped voids lie precisely where the old texts and prophecies place the hidden archive, under the Great Pyramid and near the Sphinx, at the meeting point of heaven and earth. Officially, there is no evidence that such a library exists. Egyptologists maintain that the pyramid was built as a royal tomb, not a repository of forgotten worlds. Still, even among scholars, the coincidence of geometry and mythology raises quiet curiosity. The newly detected chambers, massive and deliberate, fit the description of sealed vaults. Their scale and depth defy ordinary explanation. They appear too vast for mere symbolic purpose, too concealed for ritual use. And there, between scientific discovery and mythic inheritance, the theory finds its breath. The theory finds its breath. Those who entertain the possibility describe it not in fantasy, but in architecture. They imagine corridors leading to an underground sanctuary, walls lined with stone tablets or metallic inscriptions, each encoded with records of an age lost to flood and fire. The air inside, perfectly dry and still, preserving knowledge untouched by time. To some, this vision is allegory, the Hall of Records as metaphor for the collective memory of civilization. To others, it is literal, a vault that once held blueprints of science, language, and astronomy predating known history. Archaeologists caution restraint. No excavation has confirmed these structures, and data from radar imaging remains subject to interpretation. But the persistence of the legend passed through dynasties and cultures speaks to a deeper truth, that humanity has always believed its beginnings are hidden, waiting to be found. Even ancient Egyptian texts speak of secret repositories built by the gods before the first kings ruled. Whether myth or memory, they share the same message, that knowledge was never lost, only buried. They called it a myth. But myths remember what history forgets. And beneath the desert floor of Giza, where geometry meets silence, perhaps memory and stone are still keeping their final secret, waiting for the moment we dare to listen. When the first details of the pyramid scans were made public, the reaction was immediate and divisive. Within hours of the announcement, Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities released a statement dismissing the findings as premature and unsupported. The research team had revealed their data before undergoing the long process of peer review, and for the archaeological establishment, that was a critical mistake. What had been presented as a scientific discovery was, in their view, speculation at best, and dangerous misinformation at worst. Yet the public interest was undeniable. Global media outlets picked up the story, and within days, debate spread across universities, social networks, and scientific journals. Dr. Zahi Hawass, Egypt's most recognizable archaeologist and former Minister of Antiquities, led the charge against the study. In interviews, he described the radar data as nonsense, claiming that the technology could not possibly penetrate stone at such depths with reliable precision. There is no hidden city beneath the pyramids, he insisted. Only imagination. Other Egyptologists echoed his criticism, noting that the visuals released by the researchers, smooth, symmetrical corridors rendered in vivid color, were not photographs at all but AI-generated reconstructions. To them, this blurred the line between data and fiction. The accusations carried weight, and soon the conversation shifted from discovery to credibility. The scientists behind the project, led by Professors Malanga and Biondi, defended their work with cautious professionalism. They emphasized that the visuals were interpretive models based on measured data, not artistic inventions. The team's intent, they explained, had been to share preliminary results with transparency, not to claim final proof. Still, the damage was done. What had begun as a research initiative now stood at the center of a storm that mixed science, politics, and national pride. Egypt's government temporarily suspended all independent scanning operations near the Giza plateau pending official review. For the researchers, access to the site, their lifeline to verification, was cut off indefinitely. Behind the scenes, tension grew. Some observers argued that the backlash was necessary, a defense against pseudo-archaeology and the misuse of advanced technology. Others saw something more deliberate, a wall of silence built to protect long-standing narratives from disruption. To these critics, the refusal to even test the data represented not skepticism, but control. The Giza Plateau, one of the most guarded archaeological zones in the world, had always been politically sensitive. Foreign researchers often found themselves navigating a maze of restrictions, permits, and inspections. Now, with global attention fixed on the possibility of hidden chambers, that control seemed tighter than ever. Every revelation meets its guardians, and this one was no exception. The battle over what lay beneath the pyramids was no longer just about evidence. It was about authority, belief, and the limits of who is allowed to ask questions of the past. As the dispute intensified, the tone of the conversation began to shift from academic disagreement to something more personal. Critics accused the team of sensationalism, of chasing publicity rather than peer validation. Conferences that once celebrated technological innovation now used the case as a cautionary example. Data without verification is a dangerous tool, said Professor Lawrence Connors, a radar imaging specialist from the University of Denver. At best, it creates confusion. At worst, it fuels conspiracy. To many scientists, the matter seemed settled. The scans had produced interesting noise, not meaningful discovery. But to others, that conclusion came too quickly, too confidently, as though the idea of a mystery beneath Giza had become more threatening than the mystery itself. Technical reports circulated in both directions. One camp argued that radar pulses could not produce coherent readings at depths exceeding 300 meters, let alone 600. The other countered that the technology, when assisted by AI signal reconstruction, had already proven effective in mapping subsurface features on other continents. Both sides cited evidence, simulations, and test cases. Yet, what remained absent was direct access to the data itself. Egyptian authorities classified the scan results under research embargo, citing national security and preservation laws. Even the international scientific community, accustomed to open-source collaboration, found itself unable to review the original findings. This restriction only deepened the divide. Were the results being protected because they were flawed, or because they were too compelling to ignore? No one could say. The longer the data remained unseen, the more the debate turned into speculation. Independent analysts began to reprocess publicly available satellite readings, attempting to replicate the team's findings. Some claimed faint confirmation of geometric anomalies, while others dismissed them as digital interference. The controversy spread far beyond academia, into documentaries, podcasts, and online forums, where lines between scholarship and storytelling blurred beyond repair. Meanwhile, inside Egypt, the climate grew tense. Unauthorized surveys or drone operations near the pyramids became grounds for arrest. Local researchers complained that genuine inquiry was being silenced by bureaucratic fear. "We are told what not to find," one Egyptian engineer remarked anonymously. "History must stay clean." But history, by nature, is rarely clean. It shifts, evolves, and resists control. The Great Pyramid, silent through it all, remained unmoved, a witness to the arguments of mortals circling its mysteries. And yet, for every denial, every restriction, curiosity only grew. The story had escaped the hands of scientists and entered the public imagination. Whether true or not, the idea of a secret beneath the stones had already changed how the world looked at Giza, and perhaps how Giza looked back. Months passed, and the uproar slowly subsided into silence. The official position remained unchanged. There was no verifiable evidence of new chambers beneath the pyramids. The government's final report, published quietly and without fanfare, concluded that the radar anomalies were natural inconsistencies in the limestone substrate. But the researchers who had started it all were not satisfied. They continued to publish independent analyses abroad, showing mathematical consistencies in the patterns that official reviewers had ignored. Privately, some within the scientific establishment admitted that the case had not been fully closed, that the radar data, while incomplete, had revealed something requiring further study. Yet no permission for excavation or rescanning was ever granted. What followed was a subtle erasure. Conference mentions of the study vanished. Citations were quietly withdrawn from academic indexes. The team's websites were taken offline after hosting issues and legal disputes. It was as if the entire project had dissolved into a footnote, an event that happened, then didn't. For most of the world, it became another story swallowed by time. But within certain circles, whispers persisted. Emails, archived datasets, and encrypted models circulated among researchers determined to keep the question alive. A handful of them believed the suppression was not about scientific standards, but about narrative control. The fear that rewriting one part of Egypt's story might unravel much more than history was ready to face. The pattern was familiar. Throughout modern archaeology, discoveries that blurred the boundary between myth and science often met resistance. From Troy to Göbekli Tepe, from the Dead Sea Scrolls to the Antikythera mechanism, each revelation began as heresy before it became history. Perhaps this, too, was simply the next in that long tradition. Truth meeting its guardians. And yet, something quieter lingers beneath the controversy. The researchers had recorded faint traces of magnetized minerals along the channels they believed were once filled with water. Later reanalysis confirmed subtle electromagnetic anomalies corresponding to the same coordinates. The official response dismissed them as sensor noise. But what if they weren't? What if the pyramid, built on principles of harmony and proportion, had once used water, sound, or geometry to interact with the natural world in ways we barely understand? Every revelation meets its guardians, and some doors were never meant to open. Whether the barrier lies in stone or in the minds of those who guard it, the Great Pyramid remains a monument to mystery. Its walls hold silence older than language, its shadows deeper than proof, and perhaps that silence is deliberate. The echo of an ancient design meant to keep the greatest truths of the past forever out of reach. Across the Giza Plateau, mystery seems carved into every block of stone. Even after centuries of excavation, scanning, and study, the pyramid complex continues to reveal unanswered questions, fragments of design and intention that defy simple explanation. Each feature, from the smallest shaft to the largest chamber, hints at knowledge both technical and symbolic, woven into architecture that refuses to surrender its secrets. Every stone tells a lie by what it hides. Beneath the Great Pyramid lies the so-called subterranean chamber. Rough, uneven, and unfinished, as though its builders abandoned it mid-design. Unlike the polished king's and queen's chambers above, its walls are crude, the floor uneven, the air heavy with silence. Some scholars argue it was the earliest attempt at a burial room, later replaced when the design evolved. Others believe it was symbolic, representing the underworld, a place where the pharaoh's journey to eternity began. Yet no text, no inscription, and no artifact has ever confirmed its purpose. The more it is studied, the less it seems to fit within any conventional explanation. Above, another enigma hides within the stone: the Big Void. Detected in 2017 by the Scan Pyramids project using muon tomography, it is one of the largest internal cavities ever found inside the Great Pyramid, roughly 30 meters long and positioned directly above the Grand Gallery. The discovery was verified by multiple international teams, yet its function remains unknown. Some experts suggest it was a structural feature designed to relieve pressure, while others suspect it was deliberate, a sealed corridor or chamber left untouched for reasons lost to time. No one has entered it, and no one yet knows if they ever will. Threading through the pyramid are 4 narrow shafts, 2 extending from the king's chamber and 2 from the queen's. Long thought to be ventilation ducts, they were later revealed to have astronomical alignment. One points toward Orion's belt, another toward Sirius, both constellations associated with rebirth and divine ascent. The shafts from the queen's chamber end abruptly in sealed stone doors fitted with tiny copper handles. When robotic probes explored them in the early 2000s, they found another void beyond, another mystery within the geometry of the unknown. Were these symbolic passages for the soul, or technological features serving a function we can no longer name? And then there is what's missing: the capstone, the pyramidion that once crowned the structure. Ancient accounts describe it as gleaming in the sun, perhaps gilded or made of polished limestone, reflecting light across the desert. Its disappearance remains unexplained. Some believe it was removed by looters. Others argue it was never placed at all, deliberately left incomplete to represent the spiritual journey beyond the material world. In the absence of its peak, the pyramid's perfection ends in absence, a visible reminder that even the greatest monuments remain unfinished before eternity. Finally, one artifact quietly challenges everything: the inventory stela, discovered near the Sphinx in the 19th century. The inscription claims Pharaoh Khufu did not build the Sphinx but restored it, implying the monument was already ancient in his time. Mainstream scholars dismiss it as a later fabrication, yet erosion patterns on the Sphinx suggest it once faced heavy rainfall, conditions far older than dynastic Egypt. If true, it would place its origins in a forgotten age, rewriting not just the history of Giza, but of civilization itself. Taken together, these mysteries form a single narrative, one of hidden intent, of knowledge preserved through silence. The Great Pyramid and its companions remain more than monuments. They are questions carved in stone, waiting for answers that may never come. Each discovery opens another corridor, another void, another riddle. And in that endless pursuit, the desert still whispers the same truth it always has: that some knowledge survives not by being found, but by being forgotten. For more than 4,000 years, the Great Pyramid has stood against time itself, an unbroken silhouette on the desert horizon. We've measured its angles, mapped its tunnels, scanned its heart, yet it continues to keep its silence. Every discovery leads only to deeper questions. Was this truly a tomb, built to honor a single man's passage into eternity? Or was it something far greater? A mechanism, a vessel, a message carved in stone by minds that saw the world differently than we do. What we call mystery may, in truth, be design. Each corridor, each shaft, each chamber seems to mirror patterns found in nature, in the stars, even in the human body. Perhaps the builders were not only recording their beliefs, but encoding their understanding of creation itself. Water that once flowed beneath the stone, sound that may have resonated through its walls, light that aligned with the heavens, all of it suggests intention beyond function. To some, this structure was a bridge between worlds, connecting heaven and earth through geometry, vibration, and ritual. To others, it remains simply a monument to ambition, proof of humanity's will to endure. And yet, in every scan, in every excavation, there lingers a sense that something still waits. Beneath the limestone casing, beneath the weight of centuries, there may lie a story not of death, but of preservation. A message written in the only language that never fades: stone. We may never open the sealed chambers or read what's hidden inside, but perhaps that was the point. Maybe these chambers were never meant to hold kings, but to wait for those who dare to remember. Across time, the pyramid endures as both question and answer, a mirror for every age that looks upon it. Its mystery is not only in what it conceals, but in what it awakens within us: the need to understand, to search, to believe that the past still speaks. And though the sands shift and the centuries turn, Giza remains, eternal, indifferent, and alive in its silence. Thanks for watching. And as always, stay curious. Stay curious.